Well, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview for this project that documents the Latino presence in the state of Ohio. Today is June 23rd, 2015. Can we start by you telling us your full name, please?
Jose Ramirez. What else? Oh, you need to know something about me, or that's
Jose
it?
Ramirez.
Jose Ramirez.
Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Luquillo, Puerto Rico. I grew up in Lorain. I came here when I was 4 years old. Grew up here, went to high school here, and then left here in '68. Went into the service, retired from the Air Force, and did some government contracting work and worked with other organizations, and then came back to Lorain about 12 years ago.
Okay. What was your childhood like? What was it growing up? What was it like growing up here in Lorain?
It was great. Our community was in South Lorain. Vine Avenue had, you name it, we had it there. Between Vine Avenue and Pearl, which is maybe 3 blocks away, we had theaters, grocery stores, drugstores, tailors, restaurants, nightclubs, of course, and most of it, or all of it, most of it in Spanish.
Did you visit the island much growing up?
Went back several times to visit with my grandfather and aunts and uncles that stayed in Puerto Rico, but not very often.
How did your family or you try to keep your culture alive growing up here?
I think we still do. Yeah, that's part of the Latinos keep the Latino culture going. So, yes.
Was it the language that was was kept alive in the home, or?
My parents spoke Spanish in the home. My father spoke very small, very limited English. So in the home it was Spanish, but again, we would go to the AMVETS, the American Post 58, which was a Mexican, well, the Latino post, Mexicans and Puerto Ricans. It was all in Spanish, and that's where they went for entertainment. The movies we went to when I was young was at the Pearl Theater on Pearl Avenue, which featured Spanish on Friday and Saturday, and that's where we would go. And of course, my father was a member of the Puerto Rican Home, which used to be on, or still is, on Vine Avenue, and a lot of the functions that they did was in Spanish. I mean, all of the functions were in Spanish, so yes.
Yeah. What traditions did your family continue to practice here in Ohio? I don't know, certain celebrations?
Well, all the ones in Puerto Rico, we still had the Three Kings come, although we did celebrate the 25th. But in our family, or in the culture at the time, it's changed, of course. The 25th was more of a religious celebration, where the 6th of January was, more of a party time. That's when the Three Kings come. So.
Yeah. Now you have a restaurant.
Yes, I do now. Yes.
Tell me about your restaurant, and food obviously has a Puerto Rican flavor, right?
Actually, no. The restaurant is the restaurant is Asian fusion. But prior to the restaurant, we started a nightclub about 10 years ago. It was called La Sala, and on Fridays and Saturdays it was Latin music, and then. Because it was La Sala, people thought that it was a furniture store, so so we changed the name to Club Copa, and it's been Club Copa for about 6 years. But that has phased out, so now we're going to turn it into a restaurant, Asian fusion, some Latin flavors, not your normal Latin food. For instance, we do what we call Rican rolls, which is like an empanada, but we do it in an Asian egg roll wrap. So we keep some of the flavors from the island, but with something different, growing, yes.
Do you have any children?
I have 2 boys. One lives here in little town Sheffield Lake. The other one lives in Jacksonville, Florida.
So did you try to keep the traditions from your own family alive in them and language?
Not really. Again, I was in the Air Force for 20 years. And I was an Air Force officer, and most of the time I was the only Hispanic or one from very few. So no, and my wife is Irish English. Both my boys speak Spanish, although not as fluent as I would like them to. And they both do the cooking. They still celebrate Three Kings Day. So yeah, some of the culture they kept, but some of it they haven't.
What jobs have you had here in the state, aside from being part of the Army and
Air Force.
Sorry. That's like a word, right? The Air Force.
When I graduated from school, I was a welder at a company called Lorain aluminum here. Then I went to work at the steel mill for a couple of months, and then I went to technical school for data processing, which later became computers. So after that, I joined the Air Force. It was during Vietnam. Nobody was hiring people who were 1A, so I joined the Air Force because they told me I would be working in the data processing area. Got a degree from the University of Texas in computer science, and got a commission from the Air Force, and stayed with the Air Force doing systems acquisition and software quality assurance, which means I inspected how the software was being developed. Then after I left the Air Force, I worked for a couple of contractors that did basically the same work that I did, but got paid more, working for the government. And I've started a couple of companies in the software area. When I came back to Lorain, the economy was going down, and the government has to have a base of everything that they buy. So I thought, or we thought, my wife worked in government contracting from Battelle Memorial Institute, so we thought we'd come back here and try to form a group within the manufacturing, the small manufacturers, to be able to bid on government contracts, but we weren't successful in getting them to the table. We held several conferences and seminars and got a couple of customers, but they didn't want to group together because my secrets are your secrets. How I manufacture is different from how you manufacture, and we couldn't get them to form the group. So.
What has been your involvement with the Latino community at Lorain?
I was the president of the Hispanic Fund, which is a philanthropic organization that does grants for other nonprofits that are involved in assisting the Latino community. And I am a member of CHIP. I'm actually the secretary for CHIP. That's the Coalition for Hispanic Issues in Progress. And our mission, if you will, is more to inform the Latino community and others of the issues that affect the Latinos, and then get them to work on it. For instance, we were one of the first organizations to bring up the human trafficking in the state of Ohio, and now it's one of the #1 issues that people are facing. I mean, that people are addressing, the human trafficking. We're also very involved with the immigration reform, trying to get something on the book, something done and we've provided some funding not funding, but we did a documentary on the Border Angels. We actually sent a photographer from CHIP to document some of the things that were happening with the Border Angels.
What is, I'm sorry.
They provide clothing, water, food for the immigrants who are crossing the desert and dying of thirst. It's not, we don't advocate that they should be coming across illegally, but if they're there, we shouldn't let them suffer and die out in the desert. And the Border Angels is an organization that provides some of that relief to them.
Is that organization in any way connected to Ohio? Or?
No, it's not. No, it's not. Other than their founder has been to several of the conferences that CHIP puts on. We put on a conference every year in April. It's a 3-day affair, and we bring in medical, business, social issues, and to discuss that. And it's a nice program. We get national speakers come in, and hopefully when people go back to their respective communities, they'll carry the manner and try to do something.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the other things that you have seen through CHIP that have helped the community in any way, either by bringing awareness or helping directly?
Well, we also advocate for people. For instance, in Lorain, there was there was a principal that was demoted, although he had high marks, and also some of the teachers, the promotions weren't there, and we coined the phrase the brown ceiling in the education program here in Lorain, and we would go to the school board and discuss these things as well as discuss curriculum with them. We also advocate for individuals who are being discriminated against. Not that you don't get a job because you're not qualified, but because you're not being given the opportunity. And in some cases, it's not that. It's not intentional, but it's there, and we look at the background and see if it's something that's a systemic issue, and then we address that. And we've done that for several individuals and have gotten results where later on the opportunities are now being afforded for promotion or for job opportunities.
What has been one of the most difficult times of being here, or being a part of this community? I know you've been here for a long time and have seen maybe Lorain at different during different stages, I guess.
In Lorain, the economy is the problem. The jobs just aren't here, and the young people the educated young people are leaving. They get an education and they have to go somewhere else. But that's not just in the Latino community, that's Lorain as a whole.
What has been some of the proudest moments of being here?
Proudest moments of being in Lorain.
I mean, you came back.
I came back to help. Well, Lorain was a good place. Still is a good place to grow up in. My roots are here because like I said, I left Puerto Rico when I was 4 years old. So, although I associate with the island, I'm an American first and a Puerto Rican second. And Lorain is. I never had any problems as far as being Latino. I had problems as far as being from South Lorain. For instance, when I was growing up, I wanted to take German because I was thinking about doing a career in medicine. I have a cousin who's a doctor and several cousins who are in the medical profession. And my counselor told me, take Spanish because it's easy. You're only going to be working in the factory anyways. So back then, if you were Hispanic, that's what you were expected to do, to go work in the factory and not, didn't get the education, the higher secondary education. But as far as growing up, it was great out here. What can I say?
With your experience with different groups, immigrants, Latino immigrants, documented and non-documented, what would be an advice you would give to newcomers to the state or to Lorain in general?
Learn the language. If you have an accent, you're going to be a second-class citizen. That's the way it is all over the United States, and I don't see that changing. I'm not an advocate of teaching history, math, and so on in Spanish. English as a second language, great, but not a full curriculum in Spanish, because, as I said, if you have an accent, you have one notch less than the guy who doesn't have an accent when you go look for a job or something like that.
Is there anything else you would like to add to this interview?
Again, to me, if you come to the United States, then come to be an American. Keep your heritage, but remember or try to be part of the everyday everyone people. Don't stick just in the Spanish community. Go out and do other things, see other things. We tend to stick together and not branch out as much as we should.
Do you see, just last question, so you mentioned some of the problems, I guess, or the difficulties that Lorain has is that it doesn't have enough jobs, that the community leaves, the people that are getting educated, then they leave because there is no jobs.
Right.
Do you see changes happening? Do you see something that's...
Well, with the downtown area, I work with the downtown area because my business is downtown, and things are starting to move back in to where more jobs are coming in. Lorain wants to be known as a tourist attraction. We have the lake, we have the river, we have great parks all over the place, and it could do that. So yeah, and there are some businesses, small businesses, that are moving back. A lot of people are still waiting for the Ford companies or the big manufacturers to come back, and that's not going to happen. So you have to change with the times. Like we were a nightclub and now we're moving to be a restaurant because there are more businesses moving into the downtown area, and we're going to provide a service to those people.
So adapt to the times.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for this interview.
Okay, thank you.